All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Free. I'm Ryan. I'm the pastor and executive director here. This is Carrie. She is the associate executive director here. So good to be with y'all tonight, and welcome to all of you online people. We're glad you're part of this community, glad you're joining us from whatever state or living room or treatment center, sober living house, wherever you are. Welcome to Free. And I should remind you, this is a community for addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees. And what we do here is break the silence of addiction and create space for healing, recovery, and spiritual connection. And as always, there is one thing we don't do in this free community. Y'all can shout it out on a count of three, all four words. 1, 2, 3.
We don't do shame!
Wow. Thank you, Jim. Yeah, someone needs a clap for that. All right, y'all. Carrie's going to let you know some other things going on here at Free that you might want to know about.
Yes, welcome. If today is your first time, we're really glad that you're here. We would love to get connected with you further. Just outside of these bags, we have some welcome bags.
Outside of these bags?
Outside of
It's been a long day.
Outside of these doors, we have some bags. We don't do shame, Ryan.
Sorry, I will work on that. I'm going to work on it.
We have welcome bags outside of these doors, which include these little bracelets that say breaking the silence of addiction. Also in there are some fresh roasted wagon coffee, some of the freshest roasted coffee you will find. It is absolutely amazing. You'll also find a Connect card, ways to get connected to us and get connected on our socials and all that other good stuff. We also... Did you want to say something?
No. You're
okay.
Doing great, Carrie. Keep on going.
We also have our second annual golf tournament coming up on June 17th at Arrowhead, geez, guys, I'm going to get it this weekend. Arrowhead Golf Course. It's a 2 p.m. tee time. The last day to register is on Monday the 3rd. So if you've been delaying, thinking that you have time and that you needed a little extra reminder, now's that reminder. Got to sign up. We're also still looking for donations. So anything that could be used for a raffle prize. So if you have even little small gift cards, no increment is too small. So if you want to promote a business or you want to just donate either time or money, perhaps you have a service, we can also promote your business. Last but not least, we have our 4-week Enneagram series coming up for August. More information will be coming, but it's a 4-week series, 3 of which are paid for. It's $55. And if you don't know what the Enneagram is, Tammy kind of explained it the best way is, it's kind of like an invitation to do some deeper dive work to help you understand how and why you see the world the way you do and kind of how you show up both in recovery and just in life in general. It's a great tool to add to your spiritual toolkit, also your recovery toolkit. That 4th week is completely free, so whether or not you attended those 3 weeks, you can still come on that 4th week. That's going to be a panel discussion. Both Ryan and Tammy will be panelists on that.
Yes. Sorry, I
Not
should not. I gotta
the
stop
day,
joking
Ryan.
around.
Not the day. Anyhow. I'm not going to look at you anymore. So we have that. Anyway, if you have no experience in the Enneagram, that's okay. If you came last year and you still want to come again, you can always go dive a little bit deeper into the work. There's always something new to learn about yourself. So I would encourage you guys, more information will be coming about how to sign up, but this is more of like save the dates on Thursdays, 4 consecutive Thursdays.
Who's never heard of Enneagram? Okay, a few of you. Y'all are going to dig this stuff. We did this 2 years ago, and it was very successful. People loved it. Terry, you were there. Good stuff to learn about yourself and why you are, why you think, and why you're this crazy you that you are. So very helpful.
Yes.
Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you.
All right, y'all. Can I give you another mic, Carrie?
Yeah. She wants to help.
All right, Tara would be great at passing around the mic. because the way we get started here at Free on a Saturday night is we always start with celebrations. We lift up the good. We start with the good. Maybe you're celebrating a sobriety anniversary or a birthday or something new that you're experiencing in your life, your recovery, whatever it is. Something very profound happens when we celebrate together, and we believe that God joins with us into the celebration. And we take 3 minutes for this. You can just raise up your hand. Carrie will get your mic on this side, Tara on this side. And by the way, if you're online, drop your celebrations in the Facebook comments or the YouTube comments, and we'll celebrate with you there. 3 minutes. This time is yours.
Hi, my name's Katie, and I just wanted to celebrate my daughter's uncle finally going to rehab last week.
All right.
Yeah, thank you guys. Yeah.
Good news. We'll celebrate that. Way to go, daughter's uncle. Oh, wait, is your mic on? Now it is.
Brandon, I celebrated a year of sobriety last Thursday.
Way to go, Brandon. Woo-woo! Brandon is our guest storyteller tonight. You'll hear more from him in just a bit.
My name is Dan, and I'm an addict, and I celebrated 2 years yesterday.
Way to go, Dan. Congratulations, buddy.
Hi, my name's Heather, and I celebrated 90 days on Monday.
Way to go, Heather. Congratulations.
Hey, I'm Amanda. I had some junk removed from my body, and it is benign, and my mom's been able to help me as a nurse all week, so it's been pretty much a blessing.
Way to go, Amanda. We're happy for you, celebrating for you, with you.
Hi, my name's Robin, and I know this is a little out of character for church, but I just got my divorce decree yesterday from divorcing my ex-husband, and it's very exciting and definitely something to celebrate.
We will celebrate that with you, Robin. No celebration off the table here. Anyone else? Oh, yeah, this is going to be a good one. I feel it.
Hey everybody, Claire here. So I would say about 8.5 years ago, I went into treatment for the first time and was in sober living. And last week I was asked to work for sober living. So huge miracle. God shot, so blessed.
We'll celebrate that with you, Claire. Congratulations. Anyone else? You got 10 seconds. Oh, Lori's going to take it on the couch.
Yes. Hello, my name is Lori, and I am sitting here with someone who has just been instrumental in my recovery, Lacey, Dr. Lacey. And I just want to thank her and tell her that I love her and I'm very thankful for her.
Yes, we will celebrate that.
It's been a year since I've been here to visit. I live out of state now, so it takes me a lot to get here now.
Let me say a word about Dr. Lacey. She's been with us almost from the beginning. She was on our panel discussion, a huge help to both Tammy and I in our earliest days at Free. She was on our board at one time, and now she lives all the way down in Texas. So we're glad to have you here, Dr. Lacey. Always good to have you here. All right. Oh, we got to join our online people. Tara, you want to join me up here for the online people? I should have let you just keep the mic. All right, you want to take the first one?
Of course.
You take the first, I'll take the second.
Done.
All right.
So from Kai, celebrating.
Oh, you got to talk into the
There we
mic,
go.
though.
Can you hear me
There
now?
you go.
We got
Yes.
it? All right, sweet. I project. From Kai, celebrating 443 days free of fentanyl.
Way to go, Kai.
Woo-woo!
She has celebrated with us every single week from like the first month of her recovery. It's been really cool. Congratulations, Kai. Becca says, 3 days sober out of detox. Becca, we are celebrating with you. Congratulations.
From Captive Brand, my brother Saxon is over 50 days sober. It's Danny C.
Danny Colella is joining us. Way to go, Saxon. Kay says, 900 days clean from meth and fentanyl today and celebrated by being of service this morning at the Step Up 5K for Women put on by the Harmony Foundation. Way to go, Kay. We'll celebrate that.
From Courtney, today Kennedy performed in her dance recital. She did great.
Way to go, Kennedy. All right. Thank you, Tara, for being up here. It's always good to celebrate with you all. And, well, we are in this second week of the series called Emotions. Last week, we explored the emotion of compassion. And this week, it's a surprise. No, really, the emotion we're going to explore is surprise. So check out the video. The emotion of surprise. Did you know it is one of the 6 basic human emotions? It's one that we experience often, we all experience, but we rarely spend time thinking about it, pondering it. Now, emotions experts tell us that the emotion of surprise, more than all of the other emotions, this one is expressed primarily in the face. Here's some of the most common facial expressions that they tell us are of surprise. The first one, the eyebrows that are raised so they become curved and high. Come on, y'all, look surprised. Yeah, get those eyebrows up. You can't believe that thing just happened. Or how about this one? The horizontal wrinkles across the forehead. Come on, y'all, get the scrunchy forehead. Yeah, the wrinkles appear, don't they? And this one's funny because it's like the older you get, the more surprised you become. You know what I mean? Or how about this one? Open eyelids. The upper lid is raised and the lower lid is drawn down, often exposing the white sclera above and below the iris. And some of y'all are like, what in the heck is a sclera? That's the white. Show your whites. You're surprised. Can't believe that thing just happened. I'm surprised. You can see the whites of my eyes. Or how about this last one? The dropped jaw, so that the lips and teeth are parted, but no tension around the mouth. Look surprised with me. Y'all, some of you just look creepy. The emotion of surprise, it can be so uncomfortable. Why? Because surprise comes along and totally violates our expectations. Surprise comes along and completely disrupts the predictability of the world as we know it. And the truth is, some of y'all just hate surprises. Like, how many of you were so looking forward to the new Married at First Sight season or Love is Blind, whatever TV reality show that you watch, and you're the one that fast forwarded through all the episodes to see the end to see if they stayed married or stayed together. Or you Googled it and then you watched all of it, but you just couldn't stay in the anticipation. Tell me how it ends so then I can relax. Or how many of you still, grown adults, still going down to the Christmas tree and finding your gift wrapped up with your name on it, and you're shaking that box because you just have to know what he or she bought for you. And you've got to figure out what is in the box. And our thinking is, just tell us what it's going to be like. Just tell me how the whole thing is going to end so I can have some peace in my life. Y'all feel me? Some of us don't like surprises. And I would tell you, in our lives, we need surprises. And listen, y'all, I do get it. We don't like surprises, so what we do is we put God and our lives and maybe even our recovery, we put it in this nice little carefully created no surprise box. Yeah, some of y'all have the boxes. Do you know when Tammy and I, when we first started having kids, first we had a little baby girl, Selah, who's not so little anymore. She's now 13 years old. And then a couple of years passed by and little Shiloh came along, little baby girl, not so little anymore. She's now 11 years old. And a few months passed by after Shiloh was born. And I went up to Tammy and I said, honey, you know, I've been thinking about it. Statistically speaking, of course, if we were to try again, we're probably going to have a boy in the family. And I love the girls. Everything's great. But, you know, if we have a boy in the family, it's going to even things out a little bit and bring some balance into the family. Or just statistically speaking. And she wasn't having it. She was resistant. And then a few months went by and she came up to me and she says, yeah, I think I'm ready to do this. Let's do this. And I was like, great, let's do this. And then a few months go by, and then little baby boy Breck pops out, and Breck is growing and getting older. We got a little boy. And I remember when he was about 2.5 years old, I was putting him to bed, and then I went into the girls' room, and I said to Selah, I said, baby, listen, I've been thinking about it, and it's time for Pops to get his next tattoo, and I want you to decide what my next tattoo is, which is kind of a dicey dilemma to let an 8-year-old pick your tattoo. And it was almost like she had been thinking about it already, because without hesitation, she says to me, Poppy, I have the best idea. And I was like, oh my goodness, what is it? And she said, I think you should get 3 blessings tattooed on your hand so that every time you look down, you're reminded of the 3 blessings in your life, us 3 kids. And I said, baby, that is like a great idea. I think I'm going to do that because Mom and I, we've already talked. We're not having any more kids, of course. That's off the table. And getting 3 blessings written on the hand, I mean, that's a great idea. So the next day I was in the tattoo shop and I got 3 blessings tattooed on my hand. And do you know what happened like just a couple of months after that? Tammy and I, we gave everything away. If it was baby related, we gave it away or we sold it because, see, Breck was growing and he was getting bigger, so he was out of the crib. He was now in the big boy bed, so we got rid of the crib. We got rid of toys. We got rid of clothes. We got rid of every diaper in the house because we didn't need them anymore, and we were so happy to be in this new phase in life. And the very next week, Tammy calls me. She was surprised. She wasn't happy. She said, you need to come home immediately. And I'm thinking something bad has happened. I said, oh my goodness, what has happened? You need to come home. I'm pregnant. Click. And I remember getting on my Honda Ruckus scooter, 49 cc's, and I'm riding home. And I'm like, oh my goodness, how did this happen? God, how did this happen? God, you don't have to answer that. I know how it happened, but you know what I'm asking here. And how did this happen? God, you weren't paying attention to my 6th grade journal. Y'all, I still have my 6th grade journal. I was reading through it just recently. There's a page in my 6th grade journal where I think that day the teacher asked us to imagine our lives when we're grown up. I wrote 3 things down. And I'm not kidding. These are verbatim of what I wrote down. The first thing I wrote down is I said, when I grow up, keep in mind, I'm a Missouri boy, born and raised in Missouri. When I grow up, I'm going to live in Denver, Colorado. At the age of 20, where did I move? Denver, Colorado, still here to this day. Right under that, I said, when I grow up, I am going to get married at the age of 23. Now, that might sound a bit surprising to some of you all. That sounds like we're kids, but you got to keep in mind, Missouri, back in the day, I mean, we got married young. Not so in Colorado in 2024. What age was I when I got married? 23 years old. Tammy was still a baby. She didn't turn 23 until a couple of weeks later. She was only 22. Right under that, y'all, I'm not kidding. Right under that, when I grow up and I live in Denver, Colorado, and I'm married, we are going to have 3 kids. The 4th kid was never in the 6th grade journal. The 4th kid was never in the plan. And do you know something? I'm driving home, and for weeks later, I'm saying, God, why did you do this? Why did you let this happen? Because I've got to have someone to blame when things are uncomfortable. I can't take responsibility, of course. God, why'd you let this happen? And do you know, some days that little 5-year-old boy, Bricks, he'll come up to me after getting his hair all done in the morning, and he'll look up and he'll say, with great anticipation, Poppy, what are we going to do today? And I have these moments where I look at it and I'm like, how did I ever doubt that your existence in the world was going to be anything but good? And then I had to get a +1 tattooed next to 3 blessings. But you see, the great challenge of faith is not to grow in your certainty, but it is to actually stay surprisable. And I would ask you, are you surprisable? Or have you stuffed God in your life in your nicely, carefully created, no surprise box? So what I want to do with you for just the next couple of minutes is look at one of the most fascinating stories that's in the scripture. It's one of my very favorite stories. I love this story. It's a story found in the book of Genesis, which is the first book of the Hebrew Bible or the Old Testament. This story is about a man named Abram, and Abram was later in the text referred to, his name changed to Abraham. But see, Abram, he had this little carefully created no surprise box. I mean, for him, life was very predictable. There were no surprises. You knew how things were going to go down. And this box, it's not like he created it. I mean, this box was the one that was handed to him. In fact, it wasn't just handed to him. This box was handed down through the generations. I mean, you knew how life was going to go. And here's why I love this story. It's found in Genesis chapter 12. And God comes along and just blows this little box completely into pieces. It's short. It's only 4 verses. It goes like this. Check it out. Now the Lord said to Abram, go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you. I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great so that you will be a blessing, and in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed. Now let's pause there for just a moment, because Abram is being asked to leave his father's household. He's being asked to set out on a new journey towards this new land. And he's told, listen, you're going to be a blessing to other tribes, to other people. And listen, Abram, you're not going to do it through like violence and conquering. You're actually going to do this thing through love. And so you have to understand, in that time and in that day, people didn't just leave their father's house. It didn't happen. You stayed in the father's house. You knew where you were going to live. You knew where your kids were going to live. You knew the land you were going to till because it was a very agricultural setting. You knew how life was going to go because, see, they had what's called a cyclical view of history. They believed that everything that has happened will happen again. They believed you were born into a cycle of events, and these cycles just simply repeat themselves. So whatever happened to your ancestors is going to happen to you, and whatever happens to you is going to get passed down to your children. It was an endless cycle in which nothing new ever happens. There were no surprises, which is why the very next verse, verse 4, contains 3 of the most surprising, transformative words in Scripture. It's 3 simple words. So Abram went. Wait a minute. Abram just leaves? He just steps out of the cycle? I mean, wait a minute. Abram just steps into a new future? I mean, this hasn't happened before. You have to understand, this is like a brand new thing in human history. This has not been done. It's like Abram is telling us, God is telling us, listen, you don't have to be stuck. You don't have to stay there. You don't have to do the things that have already been done. You don't have to repeat the cycles. And so you also have to understand, Abraham was considered the father of the new thing for the Hebrew people, or what's called the Israelites. Anyone grow up in church Sunday school class? Okay, do you remember the song? Father Abraham had many sons. Had many sons, had Father Abraham. I am one of them, and so are you. So let's just stop that song right now. Y'all know it. Moses is one of them. So fast forward in history a little bit. Moses is one of the sons. Moses comes along. And remember the story of Moses. We've talked about it here before. Moses is sent by God to rescue the Hebrew people, the Israelites, out of slavery in Egypt where they were being held in Pharaoh's power. And Moses comes and leads them out of Egypt towards the promised land. Now, if you are a slave, your burning question is, will we always be slaves? I mean, your burning question is, will Pharaoh always have the power? Are the gods, the most powerful, the deepest forces of life, are they for us or are they against us? And are we here to suffer or are we here to do something else, something bigger, something better? So you see, when Moses leads his people out of slavery in Egypt and they're wandering towards a new land, they're wandering in the wilderness, it was not just the liberation of a tribe. It was the answer to a question that was being asked for thousands of years. Are our lives set in stone, unable to change, or can we be set free from that which enslaves us? Whew. You see, as these former slaves are wandering towards a new land, they had a model. They knew someone in their past, an ancestor who had actually left the old, stepped out of the cycle, and one who had this crazy belief that God was saying, you don't have to be stuck. You don't have to keep repeating the same old cycles. I mean, thank God Abraham let God out of that box. And I would ask you, have you let God, have you let your life out of that no surprise box? And if you're here tonight and you're thinking, man, I'm just not sure. I mean, I'm not sure if I'm keeping God in that box, if I'm keeping my life in the box. How do I know if I'm doing it? Well, you could start here. When the new thing is being presented to you, the new way, the new path, the new pair of glasses to see the world in new ways, I mean, do you start with statements like, oh, man, I could never do that? Oh, man, you got to understand, I'm just not smart enough. I'm not wise enough. I'm not competent enough. I mean, it might hurt too much. Oh, man, you got to understand, what's it going to be like? I mean, how's it going to end? What are the outcomes going to be? I mean, God just showed me the final plan, and I might consider it. I would tell you, if you start with all of those old statements and questions, you are indeed keeping God in your life in the carefully created, no surprise box. I mean, think about it. How many of us stayed in the depths of our addiction because we wanted to keep God in our lives in that little no surprise box? And we said the same things, didn't we? I mean, we looked at people in recovery and we said, no, you got to understand, I could never do that. I'm not wise enough. I'm not smart enough. It might hurt too much. What am I going to have to give up? And besides, what's it going to be like? I mean, how's it going to end? What are the outcomes going to be? And God, you need to understand something. I'm comfortable here, even though I'm kind of miserable and I don't know anything about being happy, joyous, and free, but at least I know what tomorrow is going to look like. Or maybe you got into recovery, but you still didn't want any surprises. Keep it in the no surprise box. And you said the same things, didn't we? Now, I don't really want to turn my life over to God because that's simply unpredictable. I don't want to take inventory of my life because I'm too afraid of what I'm going to discover there. I don't really want to get honest, totally honest with another human being because I'm not sure how that's going to go. And I don't want to make amends to that person or those people that I harmed because the truth is, I'm not sure how it's going to be received. I'm not sure what the outcomes will be. And you say, God, you got to understand, I'm comfortable here, even though I'm still kind of miserable and I still don't know anything about being happy, joyous, or free, but at least I know what tomorrow is going to look like. I mean, think about it. What if Abraham would have started with all those old questions and statements? Now, God, I'm comfortable here. I know what I'm going to be doing in my life, and I know how it's going to end. I know how it's all going to go down. And so Abram went. So Moses went. So the Israelites went. So you went. You see, my brothers and sisters, I would ask you, are you surprisable? Is your life just set in stone, unable to change? Or can you be set free from the thing or the things that enslave you? And I would remind you, it does require an openness. It requires a giving up of control. It requires giving up. You don't get to control the outcomes. And the truth is, there is nothing you can do. It doesn't matter how hard you try. You cannot build a good enough box to protect yourself from all the pain that you are going to encounter. But you might, if you step onto a new path, you might find yourself somewhere along the way being able to finally handle situations that used to completely baffle you. And I would tell you, you'll let God out of that box, I should say. You'll let God out of the box. You'll let your life out of the box when you give up all those old questions and statements and you start with a bit of curiosity in your life. What does curiosity look like? Very simple. This could be interesting. Oh man, this could be interesting. Do you know when we first started Free in our backyard, which was almost 6 years ago today? In fact, next year we'll be celebrating, next week we're going to celebrate our 6-year birthday together. You know, we started meeting in our backyard. Tammy and I, we opened up the backyard for anyone who wanted to come, and we didn't really have a longer-term vision. We just knew after the 4 weeks together, things were filling up. Our backyard was filled, and the street was filled with cars. And, man, I went to the church where I was serving as pastor, and they gave me a blessing to move forward with this project because they saw the need in the world of breaking the silence of addiction. And after that 4 weeks, I went to them and I said, man, this crazy thing is happening. And, winter is coming, and meeting in our backyard, it's not really viable. And, I think we found a good deal over here, and we need to lease some space. We need some space, and we can do a month-to-month lease with them. And now looking back, I realize what a big ask this was. But I was like, listen, I can't sign the lease on my own, but y'all could sign it. And do you know what they said to me? They said, Ryan, that sounds great, and we're going to be happy to sign a lease, but first you need to come up with $25,000. And do you know, by that time in Free's short, 2-month history, we had seen enough. In fact, we had seen too much. God was moving at every corner, and we were able to see it. And y'all do know that God is always at work, but just most of the time we're not aware of it. And at this time in my life, I was actually aware of God's movement in the world and what was happening at Free. And do you know what happened that same week? That same week, a family invited me and Tammy to go to lunch up there at the Torches Tacos in Highlands Ranch. They knew that we were starting this crazy thing called Free, and they were very invested in the mission of breaking the silence of addiction. They'd been impacted by it. And they had no knowledge of this conversation I had just had with the church trustees, no knowledge at all. And we're sitting there eating our tacos, and after we finished our tacos, they handed us a check. And guess how much that check was for? $25,000. And I said, go do it. Go do it. They had no knowledge of what had just happened. So I went to the church and I said, I think we can sign a lease now. And do you know that moment? Man, we were surprised. There were tears. There was overwhelming gratitude. And what I know is the deepest kind of faith always inspires an openness, a posture of, oh, this is going to be interesting. Man, at that time in my life, all those old questions and statements, they were just boring. When I was told you got to go get $25,000, it was like, oh, this is going to be interesting. You see, I am convinced if you remain surprisable, you will always find gratitude along the way. It's the only option. And I'll close with this. Do you know what God's great promise was to Abraham and to Moses and to the Israelites? The great promise was, wherever you go, I am going with you. Wherever you find yourself in life on the journey, you are not alone. And I mention that because y'all do know life isn't always rainbows and unicorns, is it? You will have hard surprises that come your way. It's the way of life. Those hard surprises will come along and turn your world upside down in ways you never expected. And do you know God's great promise to you? Wherever you go, I will go with you. Wherever you find yourself in the journey, you are not alone. So Abram went. You see, the great challenge of faith is not to grow in your certainty, but it is to remain surprisable. So I want to play this song for you. This song is called Meant to Live. I would encourage you to take a moment and reflect. Where are you keeping God? Where are you keeping your life in that little carefully created no surprise box? Where do you need to let God out of that box? Let your life out of that box to experience the new. I know you're trying to protect yourself. You're trying to keep from getting hurt, but where does that box need to be blown into pieces? Take a moment and reflect. All right, y'all, if it's your first time with us tonight, you should know that each and every Saturday night from the very beginning of Free, we've always had a guest storyteller in the house to join us in the living room to share with us some of their experience, strength, and hope. And tonight is Brandon Cook. But before you come up, let me say a few words about Brandon. Brandon's the one who, at the 5 o'clock service, Saman handed him a one-year chip because he just celebrated his one-year sobriety birthday. Happy birthday, Brandon. And I'll say this. Brandon and I, we know each other from some past life. And about this time a year ago, Brandon called me. And y'all know how it is, those of you in recovery. I mean, Brandon was at the bottom. He did not come into recovery on a winning streak. Things weren't going well. He was a hot mess coming in. And he called me that day, and we talked about some things. And I asked Brandon, I said, dude, would you come and just reflect on this last year with us and tell us some of the surprises you encountered along the way in recovery? So please help me welcome Brandon Cook into the living room. Dude, I don't know if I've ever seen you in a backwards hat. I mean, that's how I rock it, but you usually rock it frontwards. It should be good. Mm-hmm.
I was told that I couldn't have my hat turned around.
It affects the light.
It affects the light, and I am very rarely without a hat.
And you're a very handsome man, Brandon. People
Easy
need to see
there.
your face.
Easy there.
Uh-huh. So let's start here, Brandon. I think it's important for people to know just some of the backstory, some of what we say, what it was like. Dude, when you called a year ago, when you were at a bottom in your life, what was it like?
For me, that bottom was, I was helpless. Like, I didn't have anywhere to turn. I was a stay-at-home father, and my two boys were everything to me. And at that moment, I was on vacation with them, and in the morning, my 8-year-old woke me up and said, "Wow, that was a wild ride last night, Dad." I don't remember any of that. I guess I went joyriding with my 8 and 6-year-old. Blacked out. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
And these two beings that I created that relied on me for everything, I'd let down, and my wife was taking them from me. She was leaving me and taking my boys from me. And for me, that was my deathbed.
Yeah. So you were, to put it lightly, you were filled with shame. And shame is, and it's why we say we don't do shame here, because we know how big shame is for so many people, the role it plays in their life, the consuming fire that it is.
It's what kept me from sobriety.
Yeah. Say more about that.
Well, I was ashamed to admit that I wasn't strong enough. I was ashamed to admit that I relied on something to hide my fears and my feelings. I was ashamed that I was a crappy father. I was ashamed that I was a crappy son.
Yeah.
I was ashamed that I was a terrible husband.
So that day you came in, we sat right on that couch where Lori and Lacey are. What was that day like? Do you remember it? It was a Thursday, wasn't it?
It was a Thursday. I was broken, man. I didn't know where to turn. And like you said, I was filled with shame. I couldn't even look myself in the mirror, right? And I sat on that couch, and you sat right next to me, and I was a mess. And you didn't say anything. You just pointed up at that sign.
Yeah.
I looked up there, and you just said, "We got you. Come see us. We might have something for you." And I didn't have anything. I didn't have it any other way. I was broken. So I showed up.
And what'd you do?
I showed up the next day at a meeting at 9:30 here in this room. And I was a mess.
Yeah, you were.
I couldn't even pick my head up. I was just crying like a child, ashamed that I was there, embarrassed that I was there,
Yeah.
unable to see what came next.
Yeah.
And something really strange happened that day. I hadn't had a meaningful hug in years. And my wife wouldn't hug me with any emotion. My kids kind of wanted to stay away from that. And I walked in here, and you have to remember, I was surprised.
Yeah.
My view of AA was sort of like the Simpsons view, a bunch of really old, angry, grouchy.
There was some of that.
There might have been. And I was surprised when I walked in here. There was a woman named Simone, and there was a guy named Matt and yourself, and these were complete strangers, and they saw what I was like. And after that first meeting, I got a hug from like three people. One was from a man, and it felt so daggone good. And it was really crazy to me and surprising to me that complete strangers could give me that love and support just by a hug.
Yeah.
And it meant something to me.
And prior to recovery, because, dude, you were born and raised in the church. By the way, your mama loves you a lot. I talked to her.
She does.
She loves you a lot. God didn't really have a role in your life, right? I mean, shame had a much bigger role than God
Yeah,
did.
shame had way bigger role. I was raised in the church. God was just something, right? We said prayers at dinner, and we went to church on Sundays, but it didn't really mean anything to me.
Yeah.
It had no meaning. And so I was surprised this last year that God was still there for me. Like, I'd let him down, I thought. I'd let everybody down. And I was expecting God to punish me for a while. And I realized this, I think I told you this earlier today. I realized in that moment what being made in God's image meant.
Yeah.
I always thought that it meant that I looked like God. God was this weird bearded dude, But what I came to find out is what he meant by we're made in his image is we're made with love and kindness and respect and compassion. That's what the image we're made from.
Yeah.
It's not a physical, he's not a physical, or she's not a physical being. She or he doesn't look like anything.
Yeah.
But the image we're made of is the ability to have that love and kindness and compassion.
Speaking of another surprise, you know what he told me in the car the other day? He said, man, I spent so many years, and if you're an alcoholic like me or Brandon, you know this to be true. We spent so many years closing our hearts, hoping no one would see us. Our greatest fear was to be known. And this dude says to me, he says, man, I started opening my heart, and I have a really beautiful heart. People love my heart. And I'm like, isn't that something? You start opening your heart, the thing you were afraid to do, and you find out that there's people who actually love you for who you are, and they love it when you share. So I said, Brandon, tonight I just want you, I'm not even going to open the iPad. I'm taking after Carrie, no notes. And I said, no notes. I just want you to share from your heart. What was the surprise in that?
There was a lot of surprise in that. I realized that, all the things that I was shutting out and all the things that I was hiding from people was exactly what people wanted from me. Yeah. That vulnerability, that fear, that courage, that compassion, that's what they wanted from me. And I was hiding it from them for years.
What's I'm assuming your boys don't wake up anymore and say things to you like, Dad, that was a really wild ride last night. What's it look like with your boys today? What's it look like with your wife today?
2 weeks ago, she canceled the divorce.
Surprise!
Surprise! Oh, that's interesting. I'm head coach of both of my two boys' baseball teams.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to say that once again, I'm their hero.
Yeah. That's a powerful thing.
It's surprising.
It is surprising. It's the greatest surprise we get to see here. I mean, do you all realize, like, we get a front row seat to God's miracles on the daily when we participate in recovery. And we get to see, I love it here, when moms or dads sit on this couch and they talk about how especially there's something about getting your kids back. And I don't mean like losing them physically, then getting them back, but you get to be their hero. You get to be dad again. Dude, that is a huge gift. Miracle.
It means everything to me.
Yeah. Brandon, what would you say to to the one who's really struggling? Man, they've got that. They got their carefully created no surprise box, and everything goes in it. And they're struggling to get sober. They're comfortable, but they're miserable. Dude, what do you say to them? You were there a year ago. What do you say?
That box is your prison. And I always thought surrender was a negative term, like you're surrendering to your enemies, you're giving up. Please surrender to this. Please surrender to the help. Please come into these rooms and feel the love that's offered to you. That's what I would say.
You know, Brandon's story is a great reminder for all of us of why the mission here is so important, of breaking the silence of addiction, why we don't do recovery silently, why we don't keep it to ourselves, why we don't stay so anonymous that people never know who we are and what we've been through and where we are now. We break the silence so that people don't have to suffer alone, so that people aren't dying due to the disease or dying in shame. It's why we do what we do here. And Brandon, dude, I am so grateful for your friendship. I'm grateful you picked up the phone that day. I'm grateful for your recovery, man. You're doing big things, and I'm grateful for it.
Ryan, I'm grateful for this community and what you've created.
Yeah.
And there's nothing like it in the world, I promise you.
Yeah. Well, we get to do it together. Brandon Cook, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks, man.
Love you, buddy.
Love you too. Brandon he'll stick around a few minutes. He got here early today, like an hour early, and was having some conversation with me and Carrie and dropping these profound words of wisdom on us about these new surprises he's discovering in recovery. And it's a beautiful thing that we get to be a part of here in this community. And what I love is he didn't say, Ryan, you did this. He mentioned community members here, mentioned them by name, and how you all had meant so much to him in his recovery and how you said things to him. You gave him hugs. You've journeyed with him. And y'all, it's what we do here at Free Recovery Community. We journey together. And the way we close things on a Saturday night is very similar to how we begin. We begin with celebrations. We lift up the good, and we close with heartaches, because maybe you've been trying to carry around that burden by yourself on your own, and it's weighing you down, and you come to a place and realize, man, I can't do it on my own. And we say, yeah, of course. It's why you have community. It's why we have a God who hears the cries of the people. So we take 3 minutes for this. Again, if you're online, you can drop your heartache in the YouTube comments or the Facebook comments. If you're here in person, I will give Tara and Carrie a mic. Tara will take this side. Carrie will take this side. There's nothing too small or too big. Just give us the heartache. Some of the most powerful things you can do is put words to the burden. So let's take 3.
Hi, I'm Liz. I just want to say prayers for our friend Jacob, who was injured on Thursday. He's doing well, but just prayers for quick healing for him. Thank you.
Yeah, we gave Jacob last week in staff meeting the nickname Bible Jacob. I don't know how that came. Ben came up with it, but Jacob, if you're watching tonight, prayers for you, buddy. Rooting for you.
Just want to lift up my one of our teachers is going through breast cancer surgery right now, and she got out of surgery. She's doing well, but for her continued healing and that she comes out of this okay.
All right, lifting up the teacher. Prayers for them.
My name is Kayla, and I've been struggling with my addiction to alcohol for the last 2 years. And it's because I've been closed off in my box, and it's been really hard to make any connections with anybody in the community. So I ask for prayers.
Kayla, I'm glad you're here, and you keep showing up, even in the midst of struggling, and that's really huge. So glad you're here.
Hello, my name's Rachel. I ran into an old friend of mine actually at one of the other meeting places, and he said he had relapsed, but he was still trying, and his boss hired him back and stuff. So I'm just gonna keep praying for him because I feel like he's scared, scared to do it, and it's hard, you don't know how to do it, but so if you could just pray for him. His name is Trey.
All right, lifting up Trey tonight. Thank you, Rachel.
Hi, I'm Chris. I'm just asking for prayers for my little sister. She's battling a fentanyl addiction, and it's been about 5 days, and none of our families heard from her. She's not answering calls or texts, so just some prayers.
All right, man, lifting her up. Prayers for you too, brother. Glad you're here.
My name is Carrie, and I would just like some extra prayers for our friend Melanie. So in case Melanie is listening online tonight, I just want you to know that we love you and that we are always here for you.
Prayers for Melanie. I think Melanie's here, though, in the back. Yes, we can always pray for Melanie. Melanie, we're so glad you're here. Anyone else?
Hello, my name is Lori. I just want to pray for my friend Eric, who is somewhere out there right now. Just praying that he finds his way back to us.
All right, lifting up Eric tonight. Thank you, Lori. Tara, you want to join me back up here? And I mean, you're such a good reader,
With a Rhode Island accent and everything.
Rhode Island accent. What is that accent?
It's this one.
There you go. Pack the car in the yard.
We don't use ours in anything.
I know,
That's
I
more
know.
Boston. That's more Boston.
Oh, that's Boston.
That's Boston.
You're south of Boston.
I am south of Boston. Yeah,
Okay.
45 minutes. There
We'll
we go.
join our online community. There might be people in Rhode Island. Okay.
That'd be amazing.
You take the first one.
All right. Lucia, I'm struggling to break free from addiction.
Lucia, lifting you up. We're glad you're
Yeah.
part of this community tonight, and many prayers for you. And I believe that was our only online. So you get the only one tonight.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Tara. I'm glad you're here. Well, if you call this place home, if this is your community, if this is your tribe, if you call us your people, whatever you call us here at Free, I'd like to remind you each and every week. First, I'd like to say thank you for your generosity, your generous giving, and I'd like to let you know that your generosity is really crucial here. We rely on it. If you've been impacted by the mission of breaking the silence of addiction, well, we rely on your generosity. It's how we're funded here at Free. There's a few different ways to give. The video went very quickly, but number one was the free app. You can download the free app, and there's a giving button there. Or you can go straight to the website, freerecoverycommunity.com, and you can give there weekly, monthly, one time, however you want to do it. Or there's giving kiosks just outside this door and just outside this door for you cash and check type people. And listen, I do always like to take a moment and say thank you for those of you that participate in giving. It means it's a big deal here. It's how we're funded, as I said, but I know many of you have made that a spiritual practice in your life. You've made it a sacrificial practice in your life, and there's 1,000 other things you could imagine every time you give doing differently with that money. And I'd just like to remind you, Yeah, it truly matters here. So thank you for being a part of it. Kayla, you want to join me up here to close us in prayer? Because you just admitted to everyone that you have this box that you've been keeping life in. And one of the ways we step out of this box is to just completely step outside of our comfort zone, and we blow the whole thing up. And to reiterate what I said earlier, you have struggled and you keep showing up. And that's a hell of a thing to do. It shows people that we can keep showing up. We don't do shame. And there is a chance at new life. There's a chance at recovery if we keep showing up. And you keep doing that. And your life is worth it. So we'll close with the Serenity Prayer. You don't even have to say anything other than a prayer. I won't even give you a mic. Is it awkward to be up here?
A little.
I just totally put you on the spot. So what I do is I just encourage people to open their hands. And again, it's nothing magical about the open hands. It's just a symbol of being open. Open to the God who is constantly inviting us into the new. Constantly inviting us to blow up the box. And just take a big deep breath. And be reminded, whatever you're going through, wherever you are, God is as close as breathing. And if you don't know the Serenity Prayer, it'll be on your screen. And we pray it together, and it goes like this. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen, and grace and peace to you.